Welcome to Minukuu tutorials. Today I'm going to show you how to convert data from large, otherwise known as wide format, to long format and vice versa. Why is this so important? In dealing with longitudinal data, the format of the data is very important when computing statistics for this kind of data. Longitudinal data can be presented in two forms, as you can see here, in either long format as you can see, or short, otherwise known as wide or large format. So why is this so important? For instance, if we are to perform what we term as this kind of test, Cochrane's Q test, for example, if we are to perform this kind of test, the data has to either be, there is a method specific for data presented in long format and another method specific for data presented in large or short format. So what happens is that with longitudinal data, the measurements, in other words, the data is usually collected in a repeated manner for the same subjects most of the times. Either the repetition is done with respect to time, let's say before and after, for instance, before treatment and after treatment, or sometimes the measurement might be done, or the collection might be done with different instruments, or let's say questions in the case of a questionnaire. However, still on the same patient, and the two or more data that will be collected will be related. For example, let's assume students are asked about their favorite beverage. So we have normally we have how many in the long format? As you can see, we have 9 rows, but in actual sense we have only 3 patients, sorry, okay, 3 students, student A, B, and C, and each has to make a choice. You understand? A choice for either or not a choice as such, but each has to respond to a question. It's more or less like you are in the restaurant and the waiter comes. Hello sir, would you like some coffee? Then you say yes or no. Would you like some tea? Yes or no. Would you like some cola? Yes or no. So at the end of the day, we have repeated data. The data is repeated in a sense that even though we have different brands, but it's still for the same consumer and it's still to satisfy the same purpose, which is just a beverage, So I don't know, these 3 groups of data yes or no for cola, data yes or no for coffee, and data yes or no for tea constitute 3 paired groups. So in the long format, what do? We have the column for the individual, and then we have, in this case, our independent variable is the beverage, and then the response variable is the student's choice or taste, yes or no for each. In the long format, what do? We simply spread the independent variable of our choice, which is in this case is the beverage, and then the response variable gets into the background. Let me put it in my own terms. So you have, right now we have spread coffee, tea, and beverage now become variables on their own. We simply spread the categories of the independent variable into columns, and now the student will have to respond yes or no in a large format, in the large format or the short format. So now we have 3, as it appears here, we now have our 3 students. So this is what we term as long format and short format of data presenting repeated otherwise known as paired, otherwise known as what? Longitudinal data. So this is very important. As I said, when we want to carry out, for instance, Cochran skill test and many other tests, the test may require that you carry out, you transform your data set or your longitudinal data into long format, or you transform it into what? Short format. This is a very big issue, especially with longitudinal data. Okay, another good example is, for instance, in the mixed linear model, where we have repeated data. For instance, measurement of height at h1, h2, h3, in that order. This is also paired repeated data or longitudinal data. And to carry out or to perform what we call it, the mixed linear model, you'll have to transform your data. If it's in the large form as represented this way, you have to transform your longitudinal data from the large form into the longitudinal form, or rather the long format. I hope my introduction is clear, and now we'll try to perform this in R. I have this data set here with me. It's actually, sorry, I think I've enlarged it too much. Okay, as you can see, this data set was collected by Haley Smith. If you might have heard of that experiment, I would show you how to get a data set. It's an existing data set in R. It's contained in the package called the package is called R Companion, and it's there. So this data, as you can see, students were asked in the survey about their, what do we call it, their environmental, what do we call it, safety lawn care practices. So the teacher asked, would you like to, let's say, practice soil test, irrigation, or what do we call it, mow height, sorry, or clippings. So there are 4 in total. Let me show you. As you can see, we have 4 categories. We have clippings, irrigation, mow height, and then what? This soil test. So the student had to choose between all these types. And now the question is, how do we, so this, in this format as it is presented, you realize that it's repeated. You see that student A is repeated how many times? 4 times, in order to respond for each category of what? The independent variable, which is the practice. And the response variable is there as response, yes or no. So how do we change this format into the large format? We'll do that, and then after which we'll transform the large format back into the long format. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll have to save this data set on the desktop to import it into R and then start the business. For those who might not yet be confident with importing data into R, I'll show you how to do it. So you simply click on File, then you click on Save As. When you click on Save As, you click on wherever you want to put it. I will put it on the desktop. Then so I'll click on Desktop, and then I'll save it as a CSV file. CSV simply means comma separated values. So it's already CSV. Then I just hit Save. I say yes, and it's okay. So now if I should go to my desktop, I'll find the file. So let's get to the desktop. Sorry, and here's the file. Okay, here's it. So to import it into R, you simply right click on it. You right click on the data, you click on properties, then you click on security. When you click on security, you copy the file extension. So you simply copy this. Sorry, my PC is in French, bear with me. So after this, after copying the file extension, you get your R, there are several commands to use. I prefer what? I prefer read.csv2. So we name our data set data, for example, data, and then I'll name it read.csv2 to brackets. You simply paste the name of the file extension that we copied. So the command is very simple. Read.csv2 to me is there are others like read.table, read.csv classic, and whatever, but I prefer this. It's much more simpler. You change this into, or you either put double backslashes, but this is okay. So let's run this to import our data. Okay, the data is importation is done. We can say print to bracket the name of the data. Okay, and then after we execute this to print the data, and also we may be interested in knowing the structure of variables. In other words, have the format, or has R been able to recognize the right format of this? So we use str for structure, and you write the name of data here, and after which we may have to attach our data, so that if we would like to know how many patients do we have, then we use dimension command. Dimension into brackets the name of the data, how many subjects. Then if we would also like to know, finally we can attach our data set. So let's attach it, data. All right, so let's execute all these commands one by one. We print the data. Sorry, my R is, or is it my RStudio? When trying to write a command, this is why I don't really, it's keeping long, but it will execute. Okay, so here it is. We have our data set here. Here it is. So we have the students, then we have the practice, and the response variable. So you see, this command is very simple. Read.csv2 is very simple to use. Okay, so right now we transform this long data into short format. In other words, white, or whichever way you want to call it. Okay, so maybe we can look at the structure of our variables. All of them are well recognized as factors. That's okay. Student is also factor, since we label them by alphabet, so it's okay. Now we can, to know how many students are there, we can use dimension. So is this not actually the actual number of students? This is the number of rows. Why? Because we have a longitudinal, normally we have 14 students, but since we have the data in longitudinal form, we have 56 rows. So to know the number of students, we divide 56 by the number of what should I say, the number of categories of the independent variable in question, which is the what do we call it, the practice. We have 4 practices, as we said earlier on, so that gives us in 14 students. We will get to know that when after we've transformed this longitudinal data into the large format, you see that we now have 14 students. So let's attach the data set, so that each time, for instance, we want to have access to practice, we simply write practice instead of writing data $practice. Okay, I hope that is done. Now let's go ahead and transform the data into from the long format into the large format. So transforming from long to large. Okay, so the data as it is in long format, and we transform it to large format. To do this, whether transforming it into large format or from large format to long format, we will need a package called tidyr. So let's install that package. Install .packages into brackets tidyr. Tidyr contains the command gather for transforming large data into long data, and then spread for transforming long data into large data. So if I should execute this, I've already installed it, but let's run and see. So I'll say no, and after which let's attach it. So we'll load it. So we use the library command, library into brackets tidyr. Okay, so let's load the package. Why is it telling me it's not possible finding tidyr? That is weird. Okay, I'm coming. Let me retrieve the package. Maybe I don't know why tidyr. tidyr. I think this is happening because the package has already been installed, so I would have just loaded it instead of trying to install again. Okay, here it is. Tidyr. Let me simply load it by clicking on it. Here it is. So just simply check it to load it, and it's okay. So it's all right now. The package is loaded. Okay, and now that we've loaded our tidyr, what can we do? We simply go ahead and perform our test. Pardon me for my PC is in French, so the R language I programmed it into French. And now transforming it into large. First of all, we'll name our large data. Let's call it data large. So we say data underscore large. We can name it as in any format. Then we now use the spread command. This spread command is found in the tidyr package. So we use the spread into brackets. Let's recall our data. How is the data, and what are we going to spread? I don't know why R keeps wasting my time. Yes, okay. As you can see, this is the data set, and we are going to spread practice. So we have practice, all the 4 categories of practice: soil test, irrigation, mow height, and clippings will be in the form of columns, and then we will have the response variable integrated. And now the number of students, there will be no need for repetition. We just have 1 student, and then the number will now reduce. The number of rows will now decrease to 14. So let's do that. So we write the response variable here. The independent variable that we want to do it, which is what? Practice. So we simply write practice here. Before anything, if you would like to know more about the spread command, you simply type ? and spread. So if you execute this, it will tell you how to go about it. Okay, so see that to this the usage, you have to write spread into brackets data, you put a key and many other stuff. Let's go ahead and do that. or you could have typed help into bracket. The name of the command is the same thing. Sorry. Okay, so now sorry for the interruption. So we have to put the name of the data first of all, which is what? Data. We named it as data right from the get-go. Name it as data. So we write data, comma, then we write the variable that we want to spread into wide format, which is what? Practice. So write practice, then comma, we write now the response variable, which is yes or no, the choice of the student or the test. The choice of the student in this case. So response, and we are ready to go. This is okay. We can now spread our data. Let's execute this command. Okay, now let's print the large data format. If I should execute, here it is. See, now we have our data in large format. And how many students do we now have? 14 students, as I explained. So now how do we transform this large data set back into the long format? Probably you have the large data set and you want to transform it into you have the large data set and you want to transform it into long format. Let me show you how to do it. So to do this, you simply use the command okay, let me say transforming. These are just comments for those who may be beginners in R. Transforming is not part of the command, it's just a comment. That's why I started with hash. So transforming large data or let's just transforming from large to what? To long. How do we do that? We use the gather command. The gather command is also found in the tidyr package that we just installed. So this time around, let's name our data long, data underscore long, and we will say use the gather command. Before everything, to know more about the gather command, let me show you. Let's first do that. Let's find out about gather command. So you write question mark gather, and execute so that you know more about the gather command. So if we run this, okay, here's the usage of gather. First of all, you have to write gather, then you put the data, you input the key, and then the value, what have you. This is not very complicated. Then you put a factor key. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so we simply use the gather command to convert our large data back into long data. So use the gather command and you write into brackets, as usually, write the name of the data, which is data, comma. Now we put what variable do we want to gather? Is the same independent variable that we spread, that we are going to gather again. So we will gather this and name it. So now we will group these what do we call it, categories, back into the original variable, which is what? Practice. So we simply write practice, then we put comma, and then type in the response variable. So these responses, yes or no, all of them will be grouped back into the response variable. So we type response, we put comma, and now we have to indicate from which column to which column do we have to do the grouping, otherwise it will just mess up. So we have to indicate, we have to put a key from clippings to soil test. So we simply write, let me get down, clippings, am I right? Capital letter, clippings, then you put 2 dots, soil test. Okay, and now we put the factor key. The factor key is very important. The factor key helps what should I say, convert or consider the categories of, let's say, the variable that we are grouping, which is practice, and then the response variable as well as factors. Otherwise, it's going to arrange them, alphabeticize them, it will arrange them in alphabetical order. But when we change it this way, it's able to keep the original format. It will not be able, when you say the factor key, let's put the factor key first of all. Factor key is equal to, you say true. When you say false, it will consider them as characters and it will alphabeticize them. We don't want that, so we say factor key is equal to false, true, sorry, so that it will consider them as factors. So if I should execute this, it's giving me an error. Sorry for that. Sorry, I'm so sorry, because we are grouping the large data, no more long data. Sorry for that. So we have to put large data set here. So large, here it is. Okay, now let's execute this and see. Okay, it has worked perfectly. Let's print the long data and see what it will give us. Print, sorry, long data. Okay, so we'll print the, sorry, it's data long, not long data. We could have just selected it and executed, but I'm trying to be professional as possible. Be as professional as possible. Okay, and because I made a mistake, arrow give me an error, but no problem, it will come back. Okay, so let's execute this. You see your large data set loaded here. So you see that right now we've gotten back our long data, and I'm saying, so we've gotten back our long data. However, it has grouped them in the practice in alphabetical order. So if you would like to, let's compare with the original data set. You see that the original data set, let me show you. The original data set that we imported was like this. This is the original data set, and the data was grouped according to the student, not the practice. But the one that we just imported, or we transformed, and then it has been grouped in the form of the practices in alphabetical order. So we can regroup this data to get or obtain the initial data set. How do we do that? Sorry, to do that we use the order command, and it's very simple. We simply say we'll order the data set, we'll order the rows with respect to students, not practice. So to do that, we can name this, let's say, ordered data. So we can say data long data. You can name it in any format, data long ordered. If you want, you can, I'm just trying to compound everything. You can name it in. So we will select the rows of the data since we want to order the rows. So we will simply write the name of our data set that we want to order, and that is data long. So we write data long. This is actually the data set that we want to order, and then we put a square brackets. Then we select the rows of data long, this data long, and now we want to order the rows of data long. So we use the command order, and then into brackets we want to order the rows of data long with respect to what student. So we want to order student. So we write order, and then we put data long dollar student. Then after which we put comma and leave it here. What that simply means is that from our data long, that is the long version that we our longitudinal data, or let me say, sorry for this error. What it simply means that from the data long that we've created, I'm just saying it literally as it is since I named it data long, the long data that we created by reconverting our large data set into what, using the gather command into the long format. Now, as I showed you, R has ordered the data in alphabetical order. It has alphabetized the practice. So it started with, as you can see, started with clippings, followed by irrigation in alphabetical order, followed by mow height in that order. Now we want to order the data with respect to student, no more practice. So to do that, we've used the order command. But we want to order, what do we want to order? We want to order the rows. So when we use, each time we write the name of a data set, and then we put a square bracket, and then we put comma within the square bracket. What is to the right stands for the rows, what is to the left stands for the columns. So we said we are going to order student of this data set. That's why we said data long the dollar that we select student. We're going to do the ordering with respect to student, or on by student, let me put it that way. Then comma, we are not going to order any rows, so it's just okay. Then so it means we've selected rows of this data set, and we are going to order it with respect to what, or we are going to order it by student. Student is supposed to be capital S, I guess. Okay, so I think this is okay, and if I should execute this, we will have our ordered data set. Let's try that, and it's done. Now if I should print the ordered data, here it is. Let me okay, as you can see, the data has been ordered. Now we have a repeated 4 times. Each student has to now respond 4 times. It was like that, but it was disordered because it was initially ordered with respect to practice, but now we can see that in ascending order we have the first 4. Let's say student A has to respond for whether he's what should I say, he or she would be interested in considering clippings as a, what should I say, as a loan, what should I say, care, a safety loan care method. Would he consider irrigation as a safety loan care method in that order, or soil test more height in that order. Then after which student B. So this is actually the long format, and this is not this is the same thing that we obtained earlier on. As you can see, if I should click here, sorry, if I should show you the initial data, this is the initial data. It's the same thing. This is the initial data. As you can see, this is the initial data. We converted it to what? The large format using the spread command. And I told you both spread and gather commands are found in tidyr. So we use the spread command. We converted this data into large using the spread command, and I named it what? Data large. Now we are converting this data large back into the long format, which is data long, as I named it. And after which I ordered it to re-obtain what we had initially. I hope everything is clear. If you don't understand anything, or if you have any comments or remarks, be it negative or positive, never mind. Um, um, I'm just here to learn with you and to share with you what I know, and to also learn from you. So let's share with each other the little that we know, and together we shall improve. Thank you so much for watching, and before I forget, let me show you how to get a data set for practice. The data is actually in R, is in an object called R companion. So let me say data for practice. Data for practice. It's okay. So you have to install a package called, if you have your own data, never mind, but somebody might be watching and the fellow has no data to use for practice. So you can install a package called R companion. Install dot packages into brackets R companion, and then after which you load R companion. So use the library into brackets R companion, and after loading it, I have already installed it, so I don't need to repeat it. So I just load it. I don't have to do the installation again. But to install, use install.packages and write the name of the command, and then you install R companion, after which you load it. Okay, so after loading it, the data is called Haley Smith or something like that. Yeah, so you write data, and then I don't really know how Haley Smith is spelled. Let me look for it on the what should I say, online. Haley Smith is something like you write data, just since the data already exists in R, so you write data to access it, and then you write Haley Smith. I think it's something like this. Here it is, Haley Smith. Okay, data into brackets Haley Smith, and you are done. If I should load this, it's loaded. And now if I should execute the Haley Smith, or you just get down and write Haley Smith, Haley Smith. Let's execute this, and this is our data set. As I told you, this is our data set. Haley Smith is here. So it's the same thing, but I change it a little bit, and I even transform it into Excel format. So if you would also like to transform maybe Haley Smith into Excel format and also import it, it's up to you. I have a video on how to transform or create objects from R into Excel format. You can look out for that in my channel, or put it in the description. If you don't also want that, you can simply use Haley Smith straight away as your data. Instead of writing data, you simply write after executing this, you load the Haley Smith, and you simply use Haley Smith as your data set, and then you do all the necessary procedures. In place of data, you write Haley Smith everywhere, and you'll be able to carry out the same process. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe.